Okay, the first step that you're going to do for your color wheel is you want to, on the back of your paper, write your name really big. You should do this in pen so that nobody can erase it. Do not use Sharpie because that's going to bleed through the paper. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to label your color wheel. And the order of the colors, you should be able to create a color wheel without having to look at one to copy it. If you look at this color wheel, the primary colors are always an equal distance apart from one another, and they form a triangle. So you're going to put your primary colors in first. Yellow, blue, and red. Then the secondary colors are in the space in between the two primary colors. So you have 3 blank spaces here. Your secondary color, you're going to have one go here. One is going to go here. And one is going to go here. And the secondary color is the color that you get by mixing the two primaries together. So this spot right here in between yellow and blue, the secondary would be green, because green is made by mixing blue and yellow together. And the secondary between red and yellow would be orange. And then the secondary between red and blue is violet. Okay, on either side, in between your secondary colors and your primary colors, these are called intermediate colors. And the name of these colors is a hyphenation of the primary color and the secondary color that's on either side. You always list the primary first and the secondary second. So for example, here, this color is called yellow, green. And in between green and blue, this is blue-green. Blue is the primary, that color goes first. Green is the secondary, that color is written second. Make sure that you put in your hyphen, the little minus sign. And then here, violet blue. It is not called violet blue because violet is the secondary. Blue is the primary, blue is first, violet is second. And then red violet, red orange, and yellow orange. You want to label your color wheel before you start painting so that you don't accidentally start painting the wrong color in the wrong spot, and believe me, it's really easy to do that. Okay, so this color wheel, you're using this sample one with the holes punched in it just to help you with matching, trying to get your colors to match. You have something that you're aiming for. And this color wheel has the hue, which is the color with nothing added into it, a tint of the color, which is white added, a tone, which is gray, adding gray, in other words, adding white and black, and then a shade, which is adding black. So you want to start out with your primary colors, get those painted because you don't need to mix those. Those are already, you already have those colors and they are ready for you. You want to have paper towel, and you also want to have a piece of scratch paper to test your paint on before you start painting onto your paper. So get some water, stir it in with the paint. And because we're going to be needing to mix some different colors, we're going to put a little bit of the yellow, we're going to drip some You're going to basically want to get 2 drops of yellow of each color in your little Tupperware container. And the reason you want to do that is because we can mix the tint and the tone together, but the shade has to have just black, so that one needs to be mixed separately. So you can just test your color out. Okay, looking good. So start out first with just painting down your hue. Try to keep it really neat, stay inside your lines. Okay. Normally, watercolor paint, you don't really use white, but just for the purposes of getting the idea of tints and tones and shades, I am having you actually use white for your tints and tones, just so you kind of get that idea in your head that a tint is adding white and a tone is adding gray. So you're going to put some white in with your yellow. Yellow is a very light color, so you need to add a lot of white to get it to really be visibly different. You can see on the sample color wheel, there's very little difference between the hue and the tint. So you really need to add quite a bit of white. So then you can come over to your scratch paper, test it out, and see if it's lighter. This is visibly lighter. So now I'm going to paint that down onto the tint section. And watercolor paint goes a long way, so you really don't need very much paint. It's a very minimal amount that you're gonna need to fill in your section. Okay, so now we already have the white here. We're gonna add a tiny dab of black. Now black is very, very strong. You don't want to use very much, just barely any. So just dab the brush on it and even wipe a little bit excess off onto your scratch paper and then stir in that little bit. And I think I'm going to just grab a bit of this extra black off the paper and stir it in. And you'll see I barely got any in there, but you can already see that it is quite a bit different. I'm going to add just a little bit more because I want it to just, be careful here. Okay. Want it to be just a bit darker. And that looks really good. Okay, so now I'm going to put that down. There's my tone. All right, now shade is just adding black, so that's why we have this extra yellow over here. You clean your brush off really good, get all the paint off of it. Get a small amount of black. You don't want to get much. It's not going to take much. Just barely anything on your brush. Stir that in with your black. It's better to have not enough and have to go back and get a little more than to get too much. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good. And you can see that that's different. That looks quite different than the tone, which has the gray. Okay, and then we're just going to fill in this bottom section here with the shade. Now, watercolor is basically a transparent paint, so you can't ever get like a really, really good shade because you're always going to have the white of the paper showing through. So that's just the nature of watercolor paint, but as far as shades go, that's pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to just go ahead and move on to, we can either do blue or red next. So I'm going to go do red. You want to, this is where your paper towel comes